The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, or FDL, was able to bust an international child pedo ring. And I'm going to share part of that video with you.
My name is Rita Peters, and I have the pleasure of serving under as Attorney General James Uthmeier at the Office of Statewide Prosecution. I specialize in matters involving human trafficking, child exploitation, and I have been doing that for about 26 years. And to say that the images and videos that I observed in this case were the most horrendous is an understatement. In July 2024, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement contacted me to assist in an investigation regarding a sale of images of child exploitation, child material. We learned that for $100, they were able to obtain links that led them to over 1 million videos of children involved in some of the most heinous types of brutality that I have ever seen. Brutality that involved infants, necrophilia, brutal battery, and molestation. These horrific pictures and videos capture real, identifiable children whose names are in the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. These children have been identified series within that directory. They are victims of human trafficking. They're also victims of slavery and a plethora of other crimes. And these kids are from the United States. We began by sending subpoenas to multiple companies to start the paper trail and see where we were going. That was followed up with search warrants to various financial entities, as well as online communication applications. And then we kept following that paper trail until we finally learned the identity of our main distributor, Mehmet from Turkey. Through our past investigative experiences and information that we were able to obtain in the early stages of our investigation, we determined that the vehicle that was used by Mehmet was tributeprintedpics.com. And very quickly, we shut that down. We seized that website, and FDLE was able to shut it down. And as you've heard, multiple agencies, we actually heard from global agencies, England as well, that they thanked us for shutting that website down because it had been such a source of a problem. Through the following steps, we isolated the individuals that you see on that board who took part in not only the distribution by Mr. Mehmet, but also the purchase of all of these images. It is because of that desire to see children being brutally raped, the demand for that this was possible. In addition, we learned that Mr. Boziuk Mehmet also employed identification from other individuals stolen on the dark web to use their financial resources or their financial accounts to obtain funds from buyers to also sell this child pornography. We spoke to two of those individuals who had no idea that their financial accounts had been utilized for that purpose, one of whom was in Canada that broke down. He filtered money through these accounts just so that he can enrich himself through the sale of child pornography. These individuals have all been charged in Hillsborough County Court.
Now, I want you to wrap your head around, your mind around what you just heard. The investigators was able to go online because what they initially did, they just sit around. This is what these investigators do. They sit around looking for this type of stuff because kids are reported missing. Kids are, exploited. They know this. So they got a team that they put together to try to find these type of people who may have kidnapped these kids, who are using these kids for their pleasure. So they was on TikTok. They came across an ad. They followed that ad, which led them to a website. On that website, they was able to purchase for $100. They was able to purchase over 1 million videos and photograph of children being SA'd, of children being violated, and it's violently, and not just children, but also actual babies. These detectives stated that of all the information they ever seen in previous investigation, this was the worst case of kids being violated, of kids being hurt, of kids being SA'd. This was the worst. And then on top of that, they was into necrophilia. And for those of you out there who may not know what that is, necrophilia are people who gain pleasure, who enjoy, who prefer to be with a dead body in an intimate way. So you have these sick, sadistic, Satanist type of people out here in the world doing this to kids, hurting kids, harming kids for their pleasure. And then they just don't do it on that level. They actually videotape it because it's a market for it. A market for it means they have people out in the world that want to sit and watch this sick, sadistic stuff take place with kids, with babies, with dead bodies. They want to sit and watch this. And so you have to be careful when it comes to your kids, especially being on the internet. Because these kids are being lured, these kids are being kidnapped, these kids are being taken in some way, shape, or form. Because you have to think about it. Over 1 million videos. So how many kids are missing? How many kids came across the border? That's why I kept saying in other videos, close the border, close the border. Do not allow kids to come into this country that do not have a parent with them. Because what you think, I think it was like over 300 and some thousand kids that was unaccounted for that came over here without parents and they didn't know what happened to them. They're part of this because they need kids. So that means they're going to keep going out there and finding ways to get kids. So parents need to be very cautious about their kids being on TikTok. I made a video about that as well. Be very cautious about your kids being on TikTok. I also, excuse me, I also made another video showing this man who was married and he had a stepson, and he was talking to and describing the things that he did, sick and sadistic things that he did to his stepson. The more pain that he caused his stepson, the more excited he got. So these people are only thinking about their pleasure, and the pain they're causing other people doesn't matter because they're getting excited from that. If that doesn't let you know that the devil is real, you're kidding yourself. Because only the devil enjoys pleasure, only the devil gets pleasure from pain. Hurting people, destroy. What do the Bible say? Satan came to kill, steal, and destroy. So he's the only one that's getting pleasure out of this. And these people are allowing him to use them to do this, to destroy these kids, these innocent kids. If they survive this, if they are able to get rescued, think about the trauma they're going to have for the rest of their lives. So when I make videos about Kei'Mani, when I make videos about Naziah, it's to let you know that these type of people aren't just one off, two off. These type of people are just out there, and some people do it on different levels. So they are attracted to kids. That attraction isn't going away. And just like when you see the international ring, it was one woman that was involved. So women are also involved. They was able to arrest the 8 men. Then they have 2 warrants, one for another man that's in Turkey, and then one is for a woman. Women know what's going on with these kids. These women don't care because, like I said about Shannon, when it comes to Naziah, what would make you as a woman want to get involved with a man that you know is attracted to kids? And he isn't the first one. So it should let you know that when you look into men who do this, this is what they're attracted to. They may have to deal with you to get to what they want. They don't want you, they want the child. child. They want a child. And if they have to deal with you to get to that child, they will. So when I see women being complacent when it comes to these type of men, that makes me wonder. Just like this woman, she's making money off of this situation. So that makes me question these women who know these men are molesting these kids, are hurting these kids, but you still stay with them. You still want to protect them. That's why I say all these women that was involved need with these last two cases with Kei'Mani and Naziah, they also need to be investigated, because why would you deal with a man that you know have a desire to be with a child, have a desire to hurt a child, have a desire to violate a child, but you still stick around? What are you getting out of it? And so all these people need to be looked into. And if you just think about it on a different level, 10 people was in this one particular ring. Think about how many other rings are out there. Over 1 million videos and photographs was able to be taken down from that one website. Think about how many more websites are out there. Think about how many different kids was in those 1 million videos being violated, including babies being violated, kids losing their lives because somebody have an attraction to a dead body. This is what I want you to think about. That's why in the Bible, God calls certain things sexually immoral. The only moral sex that is spoken about in the Bible is between a man and his wife. That's one-on-one, a husband and a wife. Not all this other stuff that society is trying to convince you is normal. And so a lot of times people might say, well, this isn't in the Bible. That isn't in the Bible. Yes, certain things aren't worded out in the Bible. But if you say sexual immoral, that encompasses everything that a person can do to another human being, alive or dead. So it doesn't have to be just called out one by one, one by one, one by one. No, it's encompassed in all of that. In Acts 15:20, sexual immorality is spoken about. In 1 Corinthians 5:1, in 1 Corinthians 6:13, in 1 Corinthians 18, in 1 Corinthians 10:8, in 2 Corinthians 12:21, in Galatians 5:19, Ephesians 5:3. It says, put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you: sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desires, and covetry, which is idolatry. In 1 Thessalonians 4:3, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality. And then in Jude 1:7, just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding cities, which likewise indulge in sexual immorality and pursue unnatural desires, serve as an example by undergoing a punishment of eternal fire. So it is mentioned in the Bible, sexual immorality is mentioned in the Bible several times. So you can see how God feels about this. So that lets you know that this is evil. This is not right. This is satanic, what these people are doing. And I just want people to be aware of what's going on so you can protect yourself, so you can protect your kids. Know what they're looking at when they're on the internet. Know who they're following when they're on the internet. Know who's around your kids. Know who, if your kid has a friend, who's in that household. There's you can go online and look to see if there's any pedos in your any perverts in your neighborhood, to know where they're at. So maybe it's showing that they're in this household. So do you want your child going over their friend's house knowing that there's a pedo that's living there? This is the kind of stuff you have to start being aware of as a parent and make yourself conscious of. Knowing what's going on around your neighborhood, knowing what's going on the internet when your child hopping on TikTok or any of these other platforms, because wherever kids are, I guarantee you they are perverts and predators scoping out your kids. And also be careful about how you allow your kids to appear on the internet. If they have a Instagram, if they have a website or whatever they may have, check to see what they're actually posting. Do you approve of how they're looking or how they're dressing or how they're presenting themselves on the internet? Because like I said, there's perverts that's sitting there scoping out your child, watching your child, seeing how your child moves, having desires, having unnatural thoughts about your child. So this is something as parents you need to be aware of. And so I just want to thank you for watching this video. My name is Delmarshae. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.